Welcome back to Uniqueness Built In. My name is Cassidy. I'm with world famous Garabedian Properties. Today I have Mike with me, and we're going to talk today about the last 10%.
Hi, Cassidy. Welcome. Thank you for letting me come back, or welcome back. I'm here. All right. So today we're talking about the last 10%. Last 10% is basically those finishing touches that go on a house to make a house a home. Now, it takes an enormous amount of resources, large amounts of resources, to build and design a custom home. And as you know, we certainly love our big resources. So, Cassidy, last 10%.
Yes, I can't wait to dig into these resources.
Yeah, we can. we can drink on TV, can't we? Okay, go ahead.
All right, bring out the red Solo cup.
Question for me. Yeah, red Solo cup. I can't sing. Sorry.
Okay, so you kind of explained what the last 10% is, but tell the audience again, what is the last 10%? How do you define it?
Okay, so I mean, clothing. So, for example, clothing. So when you have an outfit. My wife, women, or guys, or whatever. Oops, don't touch the mic. Okay, when you have an outfit, you have your standard clothes, but it's the accessories that you put on that outfit that make it seasonally appropriate. I mean, your jewelry, your hats, your scarves, your socks if you wear them, and things like that. That's what makes your outfit complete. You're buying a vehicle, or buying a truck. You buy a basic truck, a pickup truck, you got 4 wheels, engine, what have you, but it's all those finishing touches, the finishes, the wood trim, the stereo system, the navigation system, the cargo bed accessories. Those are what makes that truck yours. When you build a house, you have your fundamentals of the house. You have your outside structure, you have your wood, your sheetrock, your insulation, all the roof, what have you. But basically, there's a white box inside. The last 10% refers to the things that you put into those spaces to make it your space. Tile, paint, flooring, architectural elements. And that's what we're talking about today, is how do you make a regular house a home?
So it's the personalization of that home, really making it what the family enjoys, or maybe it's the husband that likes his Star Wars decor.
I know a guy. Yeah, that'd probably be a faster way of saying it as I said it. But yes, personalizing the home with the finishing touches to make it your house.
And that's really the difference between a custom home and the copy and paste homes that we see in some of these bigger developments.
Oh, absolutely. You can go get a nicely built home from Joe Blow builders or whoever, and then after you move in, you spend an enormous amount of time and energy to put in these touches and finishes and all these projects. And some people do that, and it works out great for them. When you build a custom or luxury home, the difference is we're going to do a lot of that stuff for you during the construction process. And there's benefits to doing that, which we can talk about later. But yeah, the tile, the paints, the finishes, the lighting, the elements, the audio, video, all the little things that make it a special space we're going to do when we build the house, versus you having all those projects to do years later.
Well, that kind of leads me into, my next question is, at what point in the home building process should owners be inclined to think about the last 10%?
You kind of want to start thinking about it at the beginning, and this is why. When you draw the house, you have a budget. Everybody has a budget. It doesn't matter what, $5 million house, $40,000. It doesn't matter how much you spend on the house. You have a budget. And if you spend too much at one section of one part of the project, you don't have as much for the last 10%. So we want to be very cognizant of the global budget. Okay, so you want to be thinking about that at the very beginning. And you don't necessarily have all decisions made, but you want to have a rough idea of what you want to do in each space. And the reason is when you have the architects draw the house. We've visited some great architects on the show and around the community. They're going to draw some really killer stuff. But if they draw a exterior detail, an element or detail, or a roofing system or a chimney system, something that spends an enormous amount of resources, then you may not have as much resources at the backside that did your last 10%. So it's a balancing act between the architecture of the house and the the systems of the house, energy efficiency, the windows, the doors, what have you, in the last 10%. So you have to be thinking about it ahead of time, because what will happen is people will get invested into the first part of the house, the architecture and the systems and the structure, and then when they get to the last 10%, they may run out of gas or money and not be able to finish the way they want to.
Would you consider the last 10% to be the hardest part of the build? Prioritizing what goes into the home? Do you often see owners bouncing between different priorities amongst them?
Yes, the last 10% takes. There's some theories, and there's some strategic business management theories and out there in books you can read about. They say the last 10% takes 90% of the effort. Maybe not quite 90%, but the last 10% will take a lot of effort and forethought. And sometimes that last 10% isn't, you're not working on the last 10% at the end of the job, you're working on the last 10% at the beginning and the middle of the jobs. So if you make a decision about a certain type of cabinet detail or a certain type of countertop detail, which is the last 10%, it's making that cabinet, that kitchen island, that's a very special island with waterfall and recessed lighting and all the things you can do with it. You have to be thinking about that early in the process. So you're actually working on the last 10% when you're on the first 15% of the house. And that's kind of counterintuitive, but you really have to have a global vision of what you want to do. And where owners sometimes will get in trouble is they'll change or add to the last 10% past a period of the construction that allows us to accommodate that easily. And that's when you start getting these big change orders where you hear all the horror stories of all the changes and delays, is because you added something which seems innocuous to the civilian, the standard bystander, but it really is not. It takes a lot of time and effort.
I see. So what happens if an owner were to ignore this part of the process?
What will I don't know, something.
Well, they turn out with a home that's not custom. They're gonna get a copy and paste home.
Well, okay, you're going to spend an enormous amount of time and money. You got to put up with your builder, and some of them are kind of goofy. And you're going to.
Who?
I don't know. I've heard. But you're going to spend all this time with these builders and the designer team and the architects and all this stuff, and you're going to spend all. And it's probably one of the biggest investments, if not the biggest investment your family ever made. When you walk into the house and you move into the house at the end, after it's clean, because before it's clean, you're going to be. But after it's cleaned up, you're going to walk into the house and you want to just be, holy crud, I can say crud. Holy crud, we did it. And this is what I wanted. You don't want to walk into it and say, oh, I wish we should have. Those, oh, I wish we should have, take some of the joy and excitement out of building the home. Now, really good builders, and there's, I think me, but there's also a lot of other women and men in this industry, very dear friends of mine that are really builders, will consistently give you feedback in the process about things to be aware of, things to be thinking about, pros and cons of decisions. The owners that listen to their builders and the designers will often have a better last 10% than the ones that don't. I've had owners who have been reluctant to follow some guidance, and they come back later and say, I wish we would have. So the last 10% refers to that last 10% of what we do to the house, and that's what makes it a home, and that's what also makes you walk in and say, holy, we did it.
Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately what we want for our owners, to walk into their home and feel like they're home.
I want tears of joy. Tears of joy, not tears of frustration.
Just tears.
Yeah, just tears. Yeah, tears be good.
Careful to our owners, we might kick you.
We have Kleenex.
So the last 10%, I mean, this whole process is not only fun and exciting, but it can also be frustrating. Is this where most of the frustration comes up for our owners? Or do you see it in other areas?
It is a big frustration point. There's some folks that, it can be a big frustration point, because it's hard for a lot of folks to visualize how it's all going to work out at the end, how it's all going to finish at the end. And and sometimes they second guess their choices, or they second guess not making a choice, and it can be tough. You really have to have a really experienced design and building team with you to do this. On more modest homes, it's a little easier to work with, but as you get more complicated with the homes and finishes, the sophistication level of what has to be dealt with is pretty intense, and there's a leap of faith that the owners have to have in their building team to get them where they want to go. And if you don't have that leap of faith, then the frustration level will be much higher.
How do you make that clear to owners? You say that the builder they help them through this process. Does that mean helping them prioritize different things that go into the house and getting that bigger picture for them? You say that the owners, it's hard for them to picture it, obviously, because they're not in this space and they're not experts at building a home. So how does that expertise come into play in those conversations?
I mean, you try to coach and reassure your owners when they're going through the process and spending a lot of time with them up front. I think that the most successful projects we have, and I know from other of my friends in the industry, we have the same conversations all the time. We talk about our owners all the time. No, but we have conversations about our most successful projects, and it's usually the ones that we're involved in from the beginning, and that continued dialogue during the design process, the selection process, walking the lots, all those things that we do up front creates a relationship which builds the trust that they have in your builder, versus someone that comes in and says, I have a lot, I have a plan, give me your price and let's build the house. You have that very short period of interaction does not allow that relationship to build, and without that relationship, it makes it harder for the owners to let go and put their faith in somebody else's hands.
Right.
Faith in somebody else's hands, not faith. We should have faith too.
We talked about a little bit that this personalization is really what separates just a modest home from a custom home. Let's talk about some of those different features that are in the home. Maybe we can start by the room.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the bathroom, for example, what would elevate a bathroom to a custom home with that last 10% in mind? Okay,
so I'm trying to think of some elements. So vein matched stone walls. We take slabs of marble or what have you, usually marble. You want to vein match it. That's where the veins actually line up. So you get two pieces together and it lines up, and it actually looks like one contiguous piece of marble. To do that, there's a lot of that makes a big impact on a wall versus the sheetrock wall or just having tile on the wall. That's a significant investment, but it makes a big impression in the room. Floating cabinets. A lot of people want the floating cabinets where the cabinets are up off the floor. To do that, the last 10% is we have to deal with that much earlier. We have the framing process. We have to put brackets in it and things like that to support the cabinet. You can't just come in at the end of the process, oh, I want to make the cabinets floating. That's a whole mess of work that has to be done to make that work. Lighting elements. So if we want to do under cabinet lighting or the toe kick lighting or lighting in the cabinets, we have to do certain things for that. And that gives, and when you have layered lighting, and eventually we'll have a lighting designer on here. You know a good lighting designer, Liz, no. We're gonna have a lighting designer on here.
Quick APB.
Yeah, if you know someone. We'll talk about layered lighting. Do layered lighting. You can have a room. I can put a couple of can lights in there. The room has light. It's functional. You can do everything you need to do in that room. But if you do layered lighting with wall washers and indirect lighting and chandeliers and chandelettes are basically baby chandeliers. We can do, or even behind the mirror lighting. So that same space with the extra lighting has a whole different feel to it, and that would make the space completely different. That's for a bathroom. And then, of course, you get the plumbing fixtures and what have you. You know, you can go on for hours. I can go on for hours, you know that.
And so there's other things too, like the customization of cabinets, like inside the drawers, if you want custom storage space for certain items that you have, that would be considered part of the last 10% as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The plugs in the drawers, if you want a hair dryer drawer, if you want pull-outs, you want hidden drawers, you want to hide, we can put security hidden security things in drawers. Yeah, so all those are things that we have to plan ahead for. So that cabinet, if you walk into a house, that cabinet can be just a cabinet or it can be a tripped out cabinet. The difference between a cabinet and a tripped out cabinet is that last 10%.
Right, absolutely. Well, let's talk about some other features that we have in other rooms. So let's move on to the master. Mm-hmm. What are some elements in the master that would really elevate the space?
Most common, I mean, the ceiling elements and ceiling lighting are probably the most common, and also then you also have the accent wall behind the bed, the headboard of the bed. The accent walls, we can do wood, we can do marbles, we can do wallpaper. There's all sorts of things to do. But also the lighting, we do a lot of reading lighting behind the bed, so you can have controlled directional reading lights, so one spouse can read in bed without disturbing the other spouse. And then, of course, you know, I'm a guy, audio video. We can do audio video systems with speakers, with the control systems, the TV, some people fireplaces, the table controls to control your whole house, the smart lighting systems. Those are all elements. You have a bedroom, but those are all extra elements we can add to the bedroom to add functionality and enjoyment to the house.
And you want to add those features in the beginning, or you want to be prepared to and understand what features you want to add later on, because that can change the framing process or the construction process in the beginning.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to just pay extra and get that added on later. So we're trying to help save you guys costs by understanding what it is you want in your home before we start construction. That way we really expand your dollar to get what you want in your home.
I will say the last 10%, maybe it's the first 10%, but I would tell you that you're going to spend more money. Okay, it's going to cost money. You can't do this stuff inexpensively, but you're spending money on things that you're going to notice and appreciate. A hallway is a hallway. You walk down the hallway, a hallway is a hallway. But if we do elements and lighting elements on the walls and on the ceilings, and we do some architectural trim details here, or we do flooring, or we do transitions with walkways and spaces, that makes the hallway something more interesting. So you're still functional hallway. You're still walking that hallway. We're just going to trip it out and make it more interesting for you, so you enjoy it and your guests enjoy it more.
Great.
You're going to sleep in your bedroom no matter what. Let's do some cool stuff in there.
I love that. What are some examples that you've seen owners, maybe they had a little bit of trepidation in the beginning meetings of adding these certain elements, but when they moved into the space, they could really tell that there was a difference. Do any examples come to mind?
I think lighting is probably one of the biggest ones on adding lighting.
Why is that such a big deal?
Okay, so contrary to builders we do a lot. We do this project. You know, some of them do this for a long time. We're old men, and we know that you need certain lights in certain areas to make it balanced out. Lighting is like you can't just put one bright light in the middle of the room and light up space. You could do that, but it's not going to be pleasant. So you have to layer it. We've had some plans come to us with the lighting has not been sufficient. We don't believe it's sufficient, so we've added more lighting. That more lighting gives a more equal lighting flow around the space. And then we also add decorative lighting like chandeliers or pendants or what have you to make accent points. We have had owners who have let us do what we need to do on lighting, and they fully appreciate it later. We've had some owners who maybe said, "No, don't worry about it," and they come back later and say they wish they had.
So lighting, you would say?
I think lighting is probably one of the most noticeable, and he's just wants to deal with. And there's other things as well, but lighting comes to mind.
Why don't you think many owners think about this in the beginning part? Is it because of their eagerness to get started on construction? Is it because they just don't know that they should have a contingency budget?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it contingency, because contingency is a whole other issue.
That's not the same thing.
No, contingency is for the cruds, or by the ways, or we missed something, or we forgot about something. The last 10% is a deliberate thought process of adding elements and features to a space to personalize it for your family. I think people get caught up. People get caught up in the visuals that they can see on the plans, or they get caught up in the pictures that they see. in their inspiration books, and they don't necessarily translate it into the uniqueness of their home. You know, the way you do a window detail on a family room is completely different depending on which way that window detail faces, west, south, north, east. So some people are dead set on doing X, Y, Z, but they maybe have a west exposure, and maybe that's not the best option there. And that's not necessarily 10%, that's more of a structural issue, but same thing that some people want to put a detail on a wall, but maybe that wall, once it's covered with cabinets and where it's located in the house, may not have the same impact as it would somewhere else in the house. So it's just, I guess the short answer is, and I have no short answers, but if I had a short answer, I'd say it's hard for owners to visualize the end result of either doing something or not doing something. That goes back to trusting your team.
Right, and trusting your builder. You know, they understand the placement of things and how things are going to look inside the home versus our owners what they are expecting or what they're anticipating.
And we've seen this for decades of other people who've done projects that worked and projects that didn't work. So we have a pretty good knowledge base to pull from.
And so when you're walking with them through this conversation, that's how you kind of help them plan for something that they can't necessarily visualize yet. Is that right? Correct.
Yeah, we good builders and good designers will listen to what the owners are talking about, and they will often make comments about certain things, and we'll try to remember that so we can add that in and accommodate them later in the process. So if somebody says, I've got artwork going here, that would immediately be a trigger for me that we need to be thinking about lighting and wall space and things like that. If somebody told me they have, when grandkids are over, we want to make sure they can see where they're going, step lights or, lighting controls for night lighting. So, there's, go on for hours. Somebody wants low maintenance, we're not going to put marble, we're going to put quartz or something else in there because marble takes more work to care for.
So really the last 10% is about spending smarter, not spending more.
Nah, it's about spending more.
But
it's not.
All right.
Yeah, forget it. Yeah, we're done. But you're spending smarter because you're spending money on things that matter to you. You can spend more on things that don't matter to you, either by trying to do something that's not going to work, or by fixing the goof, or trying to jury rig something. You can spend more doing that. It doesn't accomplish anything. The last 10% is about spending more on things important to you and your family, and that will give you the greatest amount of satisfaction when you see it at the end. You can spend money on a lot of things in the home and not get any ventilation systems or internal structural supports for chimneys and stuff like that. And once it's done, you're never going to see it again. So we want to spend your hard-earned money on things that really bring joy and excitement, functionality to your family.
Absolutely. So where did you come up with this? Did you come up with this? The last 10%?
Yeah, yeah. We've always had that as a motto. I will have to say that there's there are books out there from other industries and other people that talk about it. But yeah, this is kind of our internal, and I'm sure there's other folks that know the same difference. There's the whole 80-20 rule. 80% of the people do 20% of the work. It takes 80% of the work to do 20%. So there's a common business strategy or understanding. We're just relating it to homeowners.
Well, when did you see that this was a pattern?
In hindsight, I probably realized it back when I started, 20, 30, 40, 100 years, but 30 some odd years ago, but you don't realize it at the time, but as we've gotten into it, I've been more cognizant over the past 15, 20 years. I've seen folks that have not done things they wish they had done in a space and regretted it. And I've seen people do things they were happy they did in a space and really enjoy it.
And that's when you decided that you wanted to implement that as more of a procedure as you speak with owners?
A procedure, or more of a train of thought to let them know that, we're aware of this and we want to try to coach them to be you're never going to catch it all. I mean, there's always going to be something, but we want to try to catch as many things as possible on the finishes and specialties and personalizing spaces we can.
Has the last 10% evolved at all since you've adopted this this conversation piece, I guess?
Yes, because houses are so much more complicated now. It's crazy. When I started, it was a whole different world. It was much easier. You could build houses quicker, and it's easier, less things can go wrong. It's basically you pick your color. But now it's so sophisticated. So when you have a space and you want to have lighting there, and you want to have a certain type of faucet there or something like that, you have to think about that earlier in the process to accommodate that. If you want a wall-mounted faucet, you got to deal with that ahead of time. You have to have, not only have to figure out where the faucet's going to go, you have to have blocking behind there to accommodate the faucet and also whatever goes on the wall. Then you have to figure out where your shutoffs are going to be, where your lighting, where your light switches are going to be. In a bathroom that used to have 2 light switches may now have 4, 5, or 6 light switches. How do you accommodate that? How do you get rid of that wall acne, as Lutron would call it? Lutron. So everyone wants to personalize a space, but the way we personalize a space now is so much more complicated and sophisticated. It takes a lot more energy and time, and that's why it costs more money.
And that's why we want to talk about it in the beginning of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to be thinking about it all the way through.
So, just to recap what you said, you've noticed that the last 10% was more of the last ticket item a few years ago, 10, 20 years ago. But now, as you've started to see this pattern through your owners, you started to implement it in the beginning of the design process and been more successful in that way.
We're always thinking about it throughout the entire process, from the day one. From day one, we're thinking about it. And this applies to everything, where your driveway goes, to what your mailbox locate. I mean, there's all these things that we're thinking about constantly. A mailbox is a mailbox, but if we want a really cool mailbox and we want a specific location, we got to plan for it ahead of time.
Why do you intentionally protect this phase for your owners?
Okay, we talk about the emotional and the energy and the stress and all the things that come with building a home. I mean, there's money issues, there's emotional issues, there's those late night debates between husbands and wives about, no, I want this, you want, all the things that go with that. So when you get near the completion, there's anticipation. It's like a really good filet. When you get a really good filet from the steakhouse, you look at it sizzling and stuff, and when you bite into it, you want it just melt in your mouth and enjoy it. When you get to home, you get to the end, it's cleaned up, you want to walk in, you just want to say, oh my God, it was all worth it. And if you miss certain elements that are important to owners and finishes, or if you don't do things that you could have done that would have made a space more special, you don't quite always get you'll get excitement and joy, but you want to get that little extra joy out of it. And sometimes we don't always get as much as we'd like to. And sometimes the owners don't always get it too. And sometimes they don't know why. They just walk in a space. So, and I know it's kind of a downer in a way, because people walk in, oh yeah, but the point is, trust your builder, trust your designer, let them help you get to where you want to go. And yes, it's going to cost some more money, but you'll be well worth it. There are no Groupons for the last 10%.
Oh, that was my next question.
No
All right, I'll just
Groupons
scratch
for
that out. So, walk me through how you advocate for the last 10% when an owner is feeling that hesitation, or maybe feels stretched.
What's that? Was that Three Stooges where it says, "Trust me, I'm a doctor"? Do
you give them big resources?
Yeah, sometimes you get, hey, take a couple of shots and call it. You have to. You have to have a relationship of trust and confidence, not only in your owners, but also your owners and your builder and your designer. So when the time comes, our default is, if it was my house, what would I do? That's my default. So sometimes they say, what do you think we should do? And I won't tell them what I think they should do. I would tell them, if it's my house, it's my space, this is what I would do. And that's my default answer. And sometimes they will agree with me, sometimes they won't. But it's more important that they make an educated decision. They don't have to agree with me. They should, but they don't. But the more important they make an educated decision, and that we be at peace with that decision when we make it. Because you don't want to, I've had owners who kind of made a decision kind of halfway. And you could tell they weren't totally at peace with it, but they did it, and then later on it came back to get to them.
I think we mentioned that a little bit in the beginning, and we didn't go any further on it. But what are those situations where the owner isn't at peace with the decision but goes forward with it anyway? What are maybe some things that you do now because that has happened?
I'm thinking of several circumstances. I don't want to verbalize them because I don't want people to be mad at or relive those experiences again. But I would tell you that one of our other defaults is when we make a decision, is it more likely for something to go wrong than not go wrong? And that can also be governing. So if you say, I want to do this wall detail on this space, and we say we want to put up big slabs, and and the slabs are just the exact measurement, and but they can vary a little bit. So we may have a gap somewhere, and we say, well, we can do that here, but we really should maybe build the wall differently or change the detail, make sure the slab will fit in there and not have a seam. And they'll say, well, do you think it'll work? And so what we'll say, there's an opportunity for more things to go wrong than not go wrong on this. So it's basically saying the odds are stacked against you. It doesn't mean it won't work, but it'll be harder and take more effort to make it happen. And that's usually our governing philosophy. So that's a long way of saying, I don't know. No, this is not a perfect science. It's not a perfect science. And you have to play the odds. And sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Understand. So we did mention that the last 10% has come from other industries and other areas. What are some other areas that the last 10% also comes into play? Other industries, I would say. Well,
I mean, we talk about cars. I mean, you can go, I remember when Mrs. G got her new car, you could get the base model, which is very nice. And it's the same drivetrain, same suspension, same frame, everything that. But it was all the elements that she put in to personalize it. The gear shift knob. Of course, I picked the radio out. And there was some technology features in there with navigation and things like that. And there were some finished features on putting some blackout features and some whiteout features on that exterior. It doesn't change how the car operates, but it made it personalized the car for the way you want it to be.
Well,
and I coughed on this. So.
And then, you said that it doesn't change the way the car operates, but you may drive it more because you like it more. You may be home more if you like it more. You may want to host more, and so there's even though it functions the same, the enjoyment is what you're saying is
absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Your family room's a family room. You got a fireplace. We'll never use it in Texas, but we have a fireplace. You have a TV and you have a couch and a couple of recliners to take naps in. So and you got a fan or whatever, windows. That's a family room. But if we spend a little more time and energy in it, maybe we make it into a space that you would want to do other things than just take naps and watch football. Although it's a great way to spend a life. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, great. So how can an owner tell if a builder respects the last 10%? If they know they're talking to Garabedian?
I don't know. Just trust me, I'm a doctor. It's hard. I mean, because builders have their perception of what they like and we're all human. We all have our, I like certain things. I like big chocolate bars and other people don't like chocolate, that's just wrong. But we all have our perception. So I think it's not so much it's how the builder communicates with you and talks you through the process and gives you heads up. It's more about the process of communication. You may not like the same things your builder does, but you have to have confidence he can communicate to you the pros and cons of making decisions and things he's seen that he or she, because we've got great women builders, join the Builder Association. You have to have confidence that they can communicate to you and give you the pros and cons of your decisions and offer you opportunities when the opportunities present themselves to do things.
So what kind of questions should owners be asking their builder?
Well, if you have art's on the mind. So if you have artwork, you want to be thinking about your artwork. If you're in the cars, and your garage is maybe a 4-car garage, but you have a couple of sports cars that you pay to store somewhere else. Maybe talk about a lift. If you have what we call enhanced security concerns, if there's reasons to be cognizant of the family of property security, there's things we can do there. If you entertain a lot, then maybe we do different things with lighting. If you like textures and you want to, there's different we can pick where certain textures go on spaces. If you have certain furniture that you think you're going to get, we want to accommodate that with our lighting plan, and we want to accommodate it with the floor plan. So open communication, showing the builder lots of pictures, because sometimes the pictures will speak more to us than your words. And you have to be willing to invest in that last 10%. You can't say I want to do this, and then it's going to take time and resources to do that.
Sure. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot of communication that goes on in this process. Mm-hmm. So why does team chemistry matter more in this process more than elsewhere in the home building process?
So everyone has to be on the same page. The owner has to be on the same page with what they're trying to accomplish. The owner has to clearly communicate what they're trying to accomplish, and has to be realistic based upon their resources. The designer has to understand that, because designers and architects need to understand that, because they have some great vision on some cool things that you can do that maybe don't fit in with what's possible in the budget. And the builder has to be cognizant of things that work and don't work, and things that have to be done to accommodate those requests to make sure that the budget accounts for that.
So pick someone that you get along with.
Yeah, you can say that. It's easier.
So if anyone were to take anything away from this episode, what should it be?
Okay,
Pour yourself a drink.
Okay, your house is going to be approximately 10% bigger than you want it to be. Your house is going to cost approximately 10%. You're going to spend 10% more than you wanted to spend, and it's going to take longer than you wanted to take. But be at peace with that. If you're at peace with that, then it will go much easier. If you fight that, then it'll just be harder. You'll still love it in the end, but yeah. And some of you may be 20 or 30%, but we try.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. I want one more question. How should someone think about the last 10%?
Well, I had that really long diatribe, and you said personalization. So personalization would be a faster way to say it. But you're personalizing it. You're making the space, and I say space because each room has different issues. You're making the space important to you and your family. And that you're personalizing it. And personalizing the space is going to take time, energy, and resources above and beyond the carpet, or flooring, the paint in the walls, and put in a door.
But in the end, it'll all be worth it.
Yes.
That's what we hope to accomplish.
Yeah, you'll love it.
You'll love it, and you'll be happy.
You'll love it, or you're not, or no chocolate for you.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I appreciate you going over the last 10% for our owners. Folks, if y'all have any questions, we would love for you to reach out. Thank you again, Mike, and y'all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching Uniqueness Built In. Have you seen something interesting on our show that you would like us to elaborate on? Or perhaps you've seen something out in the wild that you want us to talk about on our show? Feel free to email us at the email on the screen, info@garabedianproperties.com.